Congressman Steve King is with us. He has made some pretty, if the press is right, some pretty outrageous statements lately. I wanted to get him on and talk about it. Congressman King, welcome to our program.
Well, thanks for having me on, Tom. I'm always glad to have a good dialogue and root it down in the facts and the truth. And where we have legitimate philosophical disagreements, we can identify those too.
Well, let's hope we do that. SteveKing.house.gov is your website, and you recently famously called for deporting liberals if we're going to keep illegal aliens. How about if we deport a liberal for every illegal alien, we deport a conservative for every barrel of oil that BP spills? Fair swap?
You know, let me take a look at that. I got to run the numbers, but it's an intriguing proposal, and it may be a simple solution to two complex problems, Tom.
Yeah, to be a little more serious about this, though, Fremont, Nebraska has voted on an illegal immigration measure in which they're saying that employers have to use the federal database program to determine if somebody's here illegally, and renters cannot rent homes to people who are here illegally, that people have to go to the police and prove, get basically a certificate that they can occupy a house. The former part of this, I actually agree with. I think that this is a reasonable thing. I am concerned, though, that if any local government, including the state of Arizona, puts in the hands of law enforcement the job of, whose main job is protecting people from crime, the job of enforcing immigration laws, that people who are here illegally are going to find themselves with a giant target on their back for criminals. I mean, this is like saying to every rapist in the area, find any woman who's in a household that's here illegally, including children, because they will not be able to call the police any longer to report crimes because they'll be afraid of being deported. Your thoughts?
Well, I guess that analysis would presuppose then that their fear of the law is greater than their fear of the potential criminal.
Yes.
I just think when we take that and put that out as a principle or a standard that would guide us, it would limit us to where we couldn't enforce immigration law. And I know that there are law enforcement officers on both sides of this issue who have been involved in many of those debates. I come down on the side of we've got to enforce the law. It's our job to do that, and that local law enforcement has the authority to do so, and that's clear in the case law that's out there. It's clear in Attorney General's opinion that was written some years ago.
Yeah.
And so I think we need to enforce that law. If everybody had done that for the last 30 years, we wouldn't have a problem.
Well, we didn't have a problem for the previous 100 years before the last 30 years when we did have immigration laws in place, and I think it's because, A, there wasn't the expectation that there was going to be an amnesty like Reagan declared in '86, but B, because, now that organized labor has been pretty much wiped out, there's not much of a barrier to keep employers from hiring illegal aliens. I don't think that we have an illegal alien problem. I think we have an illegal employer problem. And I think that Fremont, Nebraska is saying they're going to start, I guess there's a Hormel plant or something, there's a meatpacking plant, that they're going to go after the actual employers. If corporations in America started, if CEOs started going to jail for hiring illegal aliens, people would not come to this country.
Well, I am for shutting off the jobs magnet, and I've introduced legislation that uses the IRS to help doing that. It's called the New IDEA Act, the New Illegal Deduction Elimination Act, which lets the IRS determine that they run all of the numbers of the employees through E-Verify. If they can't verify they're legal to work in the United States, then the wages and benefits paid to the illegals will become not tax deductible, so they go to the income side, where then it's a taxable event for the employer.
So the corporation ends up with a small fine. You're opposed to throwing rich white guys in jail, but you want to take brown people and put them in a armored vehicle and ship them off.
Tom, this isn't about race.
It seems that it is when you say the corporation or the company or the employer, we're going to make sure that they get a fine, but the individuals, we're going to have somebody with a gun in their face.
I want to turn up the leverage where we can everywhere. I'm not quite ready to take the employers and lock them up for a long period of time.
Why not? They're breaking the law. You said you're in favor of enforcing the law.
Second or third offense, I'd be willing to take a look at that. I really would.
So if it's a corporation, it's not 3 strikes, you're out. It's 3 strikes, we got you. If it's an individual, it's 3 strikes, you're out.
We have individuals coming in. I've seen the numbers at 27 times encountering the same individual down at Nogales, for example, and it went before the court finally, and the judge ordered him to time served. And then he's back in the United States and released again.
Right.
We have a catch and return policy on the border. There's no mission sense down there at all.
But why are they coming here?
There are a number of reasons. Some are coming here for jobs. Some are coming here smuggling drugs. Some are coming here for the welfare state. It's difficult for them.
Well,
to
you cut off the welfare state,
can.
you cut off the jobs, and then all you've got are the criminals. And you use, and I'm with you, and I'm totally in favor of using police against the criminals. But anyway, I think we've both made our points on this. I wanted to move along. You have been quoted as saying, and then later you apparently said that was taken out of context. Apparently, in an interview with Laura Ingraham, that President Obama favors the black person by default. What was that all about?
Well, okay, Media Matters cut my sentence off in the middle, put a period where they wanted it, and chopped off all the rest and made a story. But here's what I said. I have the quote in front of me, and I'll cut some of the extraneous material out too. It's not very long. Here's what I said. But the president has demonstrated he's got a default mechanism in him that breaks down the side of race on the side of it favors the black person in the case of Professor Gates and Officer Crowley. And then I went on to talk about the president making race the issue of Arizona's immigration law. And then I talked about Eric Holder with decisions as he's made within the Justice Department that broke down on the side of favoring the minority when there was no justifiable law reason to do that. And there's a whole list of things that way. I put it all into a context. And the president, by the way, in his first statement about Professor Gates and Officer Crowley, he started his statement with race. He ended it with race. He framed the argument with race. He's framed the Arizona argument with race. I think that we have to raise these points if we're ever going to have a law where justice is blind and people are equal under the law. You can't have the president or the attorney general simply getting a pass when they play the race card.
But you can't have justice be blind in a nation where everybody else is not blind. And the fact of the matter is that in the Officer Crowley kind of situation, I mean, black people still have a difficult time grabbing a cab. They're far more likely to be stalked by police as possible intruders in a neighborhood. Mexican Americans, Hispanic Americans down in Arizona are far more likely to be the victims of not only crime but police harassment as well and violence. If you're saying that Obama is defaulting to the black person in this case, I would say that that may be the case, and you're doing the same thing by saying that you only want to fine white employers and not really even go after them until the third offense. Whereas if you catch somebody who's an illegal alien, you want the cops to put a gun in their face.
Come of all races and all genders. And you can presume that it's white employers that are the predominant ones, but
they are.
In Boston, they found that their disorderly conduct arrests over the last 5 years.
Would you admit that we're all a little racist at our core?
We are all human at our core. We're all created in God's image. He's blessed us with the distinction to tell each other apart, and I believe it's a sin to advantage or disadvantage people because of how they look.
Okay, Representative Steve King, thank you.